Okay, so something new. We want to welcome you all to Rock Live. Just started this week, and I'm here with Nick Putman. My name is Kris Dornan. Both Rockwell employees, both are leading sessions this week at Rock Live, and we hope that you're enjoying this as much as we are putting it together for you. Being virtual is it's been its own challenges, and it's funny, Nick and I, before we started, we're just waiting. As soon as we, are here and we're talking to you guys, we're just waiting for text messages or dogs to run in or my kids coming in the background. But I think that's what life is for everybody right now. But there are advantages of it. I can go wherever I want to by staying in my own chair. If I wanted to say I want to hit the beach, I can do it on an instant. If I want to, say, hey, let's be all formal and talk from the clock tower, I can do it. I got to put my jacket on now a little bit. It's a little cold. There's all sorts of things that you can tell. I don't know how that picture got in there, but we'll move forward here to that. And Nick, what do you think? How has life been for you in this kind of new reality about working from home?
Yeah, thanks, Kris. It's been really interesting to say the least. I think we've learned a lot about ourselves and gotten to know our families and our neighbors a lot more intimately, for sure. All working at home, um, like you kind of alluded to, our four-legged and our children, they're all becoming a much bigger part of the day-to-day work environment, right? Dogs barking in the background probably is more of the normal than the exception anymore, right? On any one of the calls that we're on anymore, and just the way that we have to go about presenting, whether it's hardware, software, having commercial discussions, everything is so different now than it used to be. What I was going to share with you here, Kris, for a moment, just to kind of give you an idea of what I'm working with, is you see a little bit of my setup behind me, but I can't hand you a piece of hardware to play with anymore, right? That would have been
Right.
something that I always would have done as I see my dogs chasing a squirrel by, capturing my attention. But, I've got here a little bit of a setup. So I've had to, get a few more cameras and, I can wave to you. How's everybody doing? If I really wanted to show you some hardware or change some networking or integrate with a display and wanted to show that to you live, I've got some better ways to actually go ahead and do that.
That's awesome.
I've had to let you into my life a little bit more, right? I lost a bedroom, so it's a little bit more difficult for my in-laws to come visit now. I've gained an office, but I'm okay with that. So there's been some positive change, I think, and we'll continue to grow for sure. So, but yeah, hopefully you're doing well and it's working out for you as well. So
No, it is, and as a social person, right, I do miss having those hallway conversations, but having video and having the Zoom, having things like, MS Teams, what we're doing now, I mean, if you thought this happened 5, 10 years ago, we'd be, never in a place where we could do this and be able to be at least
no kidding.
efficient to a certain degree from where we have been previously. So, again, to the audience out there, welcome. You're at the first, our first Rock Live, and why not be even more new by having it as a virtual event, which takes advantage of what we're doing here. Welcome. We're going to be sharing some high level discussions about some of the topics we're leading this week, and a couple of things to make you aware of that you're taking advantage of because it's huge. I mean, we just heard today already that there's 10,000 attendees for some of the sessions, which would be like 10 times more than what could have been handled from a physical event. So there are positives about this. And if you haven't yet, have you played the Rock Live badge game yet? And if
I
you
haven't. I
haven't,
just heard about it this morning in one of the kickoffs, so I'm going to have to go back to my registration and play the game. I heard there's some cool prizes. I don't know if you know anything more about them, but I hear there's some good stuff that I should be looking out for.
that's what I see is, hey, who knows if we'll be able to get them, but hey, prizes and merchandise are always, it's easy to play. Now, what you'll see, we don't see yet, you'll see the play option at the top of your screen, and you can start collecting badges to redeem prizes. So,
Awesome.
fabulous prizes. And also, from that, apart from taking advantage of looking at these two handsome gentlemen in front of you, you can tour the partner showcase. So that's over 25 leading companies that are ready to chat with you right now about the newest technologies and innovations. And when you talk about that, what you're going to hear us talk about here for a few minutes is stuff we take very seriously. Really interesting to note that I had the opportunity to hire Nick into my group a few years back, and they say that what you judge yourself as a manager is to, you know, teach them on terms of how they go past you. So now Nick leading, the thin manager group, which is actually a lot of the technology behind some of the things we're going to talk to you about today. And it's just great to see how our company continues to provide opportunities for everybody, regardless of the circumstances. And we just talked about this virtual experience, and a lot of that is a direct result of the situation, of the COVID-19 situation now. And actually, that's going to be a situation that's going to be hitting a lot of just users of Rockwell on the platforms today. So really the best way I could think to start that is what Nick and his team at Thin Manager has been doing right now in terms of, how are you going to be able to be socially distant when you're working and when you're doing automation? So Nick, what have you guys been doing about that? What have you guys been seeing as advantages to how Rockwell can support users in this environment?
No, you bet, Chris. So, first of all, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. I couldn't be to where I am today without you. But there's some challenges that we've seen right across the workplace. Whether you work in corporate banking, whether you work in finance, whether you work in education, we're all feeling and facing a lot of different challenges. But specifically in the industrial space, it's not as easy for us to all just be at home. I'm fortunate to have the setup I shared with you. But for a lot of our customers, a lot of our partners, it's not as easy to just pick up and walk out, right? The show must go on, as they say. We need to continue to promote what we've got. So, some of the challenges that we've really seen is, how do we go about and do social distancing? How do we promote reduced workforces, at least in particular areas of the plants? So if I wanted to look, specifically at, what do we look at, from maybe a social distancing perspective? How would we go about, actually attaining something like that? I'll share a couple things with you here, Chris, if you don't mind. Um,
Yeah, no
you
problem.
know,
I'm trying to get the slides here. Of course, always technical difficulties. Are you seeing these slides now yet, Nick? Are they
uh,
coming in to you?
I'll try to share mine. We'll see if they show up on your end. And this is just part of working remote, right,
Ah,
Chris?
there
This
you
is,
go. Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
probably got the wrong screen. So yet again, I've got to go ahead and I'll
You
swap
got
my
it.
views
See,
so
this
you
is
get the right
this.
one. So we're all learning new technologies, right? That's part of this. But one of the technologies that we'll kind of promote, and again, social, how do we socially distance? In kind of what you see at the little picture on the left, a typical setup may have been to have multiple operators, working very closely together. There's a lot of benefit in that, right? You can see the same data, you can collaborate, make those decisions together. But as we know, the general guidance has been 6 feet apart, at least here in the US. And how do we go about doing that, right? So we need to set that distance between us. Um, Using a product like Thin Manager, especially when we're leveraging that to deliver some of our other control and visualization applications, we're really going to be able to do some reassignment on the fly. When we're using those thin clients that I kind of had set up here in my now home office, is I'm able to do a lot of on the fly reassignments. I can utilize some existing hardware. So we know that there's been a lot of challenges, across many different vendors with some supply stream, and that supply chain, being able to actually provide hardware. You could maybe take advantage of what you've already got in your facility, right? Take advantage of some decommissioned or older hardware. Let's go ahead and connect up a monitor, bring that onto the network, and now let's put people a little bit more separated from one another, right? So just one of the ways that you can very quickly and dynamically change the overall layout of what you're doing. Not asking you to re-engineer your applications, right? We're not asking you to change the way that you're making product. You've got very well-defined processes, but we can redesign a control room very quickly, seamlessly, and be able to really promote that. Um, what
It,
are
you know,
yeah,
it, it's
go
wait,
ahead, please.
no, I was just going to say, and it's so funny because I think your next slide's going to hit on this, Nick. Is the fact is that somebody like our control room, if you will,
Sure.
for our lives right now is sitting in our newly made offices. For you, it was the translated bedroom. I'm sitting in the basement, actually, in
I'm
a
sure
in a
your
kind of
kids are
an
thrilled you
impromptu
took over
office,
there. Yeah, right. Yeah.
their play space and everything else like that. But even people that are are working on the plants may have their own house being, well, what they have access to right now, Nick, right?
Sure. Yep, absolutely. I think you've got one there, right? I've got mine here. I've got a mobile device. I've got a laptop. How can I get some? There you are, right? We've probably got multiple within reach. Many people do anymore, right? I got another one in my pocket. How can I take advantage of what I've got sitting in front of me right now to get that control, right? So we can take advantage of some of these opportunities to be able to deliver our content remotely, publish the existing application again. And I'm kind of coming back to some of the overall themes there, but let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's just redeliver what we've got and deliver that to a new location. And let's do control where we, or visualization and have some, eye into what's happening with manufacturing, maybe in a place we didn't have it before, whether that's with cameras, delivering some of that content down to mobile devices, kind of bolting the existing solution on top of a new layered security or a new secure environment, right? There's a lot that we can take advantage of, and then, what do we do? How do we move workers around? Maybe we're not necessarily, totally reducing our workforce, but maybe we're changing how that is. We're changing schedules, and we'll say, okay, some portion of our workforce, you're going to be remote, and the others will be in person. Um, let's deliver content instead of just always putting the same visualization at every single machine. How can I take that same mobile device that we were just looking at there, mine's got the Browns background, Kris, so not the Steelers, by the way, but we'll
Yeah.
agree to disagree there. But we'll take those same mobile devices. Let's get content delivered to us based on where we're at. Or how can we vet in a plant, hey, I should be able to do control. I've got my line of sight. I've got a way to get that right communication. We can still safely and securely deliver that, but I may not have to stand right next to you. So we can still enjoy time together without having to stand right next to each other. So, a lot of benefits there. I think that we can really promote, and take advantage of as we continue to adapt in the current, market and the current, global situation that we're all striving to work to the best that we can in right now. So
No, it's so important, Nick. And if you're just joining us, by the way, we're discussing, some of the capabilities that Thin Manager brings to the table in terms of supporting workers in this time where they're socially distancing, where you're working from home, where you're protecting the people that work at your plant. And Nick, just so we're making sure you get the appropriate plug, what is the actual designation of your presentation this week that's going on?
sure. So we'll be presenting at both SY03 and SY04. Will be the lab number, or the session numbers. And so what that really is it's delivering the connected enterprise within Manager, right? And you'll hear a lot about the connected enterprise, um, just throughout the week here. And I'm sure you've already began to hear some of that, throughout the morning as your day has started and as you've joined us. But it's really delivering that connected enterprise. Again, you hear a lot about connecting the devices, and I think you're going to talk a little bit about edge connectivity and some of yours as well, Kris. But how do
Sure.
we actually deliver that? And we see Thin Manager as the tool that's really going to allow you to deliver safely and securely that connected enterprise message that we all from Rockwell will continue to promote. But maybe you could give me a little insight onto whether it's the edge computing or scalable compute. How is that going to fit into everything we're talking about here?
It's great leeway there, Nick. And I think again, it's something where you look at empowering people to do their best work, regardless of the circumstance. When you think of what you just presented, Nick, I also think that even in times where we didn't have this crisis, we have a lot of new operators that are millennials. I don't even know what I am. Am I a Gen X? I don't know what it is, but you know, people don't expect to have a tethered control room anymore. People expect to control things from their devices, from their phone and from their tablet. So when you just talk about some of the things, and Nick, what you're referring to is some of the sessions I'm leading this week. One is explicitly on edge computing, and that's CL02. The other is just going to be looking at our hardware portfolio, and that's CL03, and a lot of the new things that we're doing. And a lot of that, the theme is taking productivity and enabling those new technologies that are available to us to allow them to be packaged to you in our automation systems. Edge computing is one of those. And I think what's interesting about that is and I won't share slides because I'm afraid I may share the wrong slide. And we'll take advantage of just being able to hit some points here. Uh, Operators and everybody wants to remove white box PCs from the plant floor. For security reasons, for just the capability of having to not only maintain them, using your IT. It depends on what your capability is with your IT, but it's such a converging thing. Convergence is something we've talked to forever in terms of IT space into the OT space. So, a lot of that is how do you take advantage or not use whites, but still have that computing capability close to where the Logix controller, where the action happens. And a couple of ways we do that through, control in the rack with the compute device for control Logix, and also with the, I would say, still newly released 5480, which is a compact Logix controller that's actually a quad core chipset that 3 cores are for Logix and 1 core is actually for a Windows 10 IoT OS, which then does allow you to perhaps bundle, certain Rockwell software could be. It's our way that we're presenting to make a connection OPC UA, which is one of those connections. Nick, you just talked about connected enterprise, and it's making sure that we enable those connections to go to devices that exist not only on Ethernet but other places. And it could be a place where you're even doing your own C++, whether it be Java programming today. A lot of people use computers to enable just more languages. And you marry that with Logix and being able to create algorithms that take advantage of the speed of the location of the PC, and being able to marry that to PC capabilities, whether it be MATLAB, whether it be, again, C++ languages or not. We feel there's an advantage there. And even when we talk about solutions, you're going to hear about, Plant PX50 this week as a solution, but solutions are across the board. And 5480 bundled with the right software can be delivered as a solution. So, if that's, we've even done some testing where the WinTMC, for example, Nick,
Sure.
that enables Thin Manager to a certain aspect can be on that device.
Absolutely.
And yeah, have you seen that, Nick? I mean, what have you, your thoughts on some of that we're enabling? What's your thoughts on this IT/OT convergence as well?
No, I think it's great. And again, some of the platforms that you and I are both talking about are really the convergence point there, right? It's where the IT and the OT start to blend. I think typically, across all of our different sectors that we support, there's always been kind of that segregation where you had very, different views, right, about how do we want to manage, different components of our particular facilities. And for many years, and it's not to say that things like security weren't a concern, but your greater overall network infrastructure security was looked at very differently from a plant perspective than it was from your enterprise network, right? And a lot of times they weren't connected. And again, that is in essence what we're talking about when we're really saying the IT/OT convergence there. But where do those mesh and what are those different connection points? And this is really some of those connection points. How do I layer in all of the knowledge that our IT organizations have about protecting and managing remote access? And how do I apply that to actually gain remote access to some of these devices? Is
Yeah.
that this edge compute, right? Is there different platforms, technology based, that can help me connect to some of those mobile devices, right? Whether that be from my home office or from, somewhere else in the plant, talking generational, right? So, you may not know exactly what generation you fit in, it sounded like, but I probably fit right in the heart of the millennial generation. So I think without reaching too far, I can open another drawer, right? I've got my other phone here in the bag. I've got another tablet. So within arm's reach, I think I've got 3 or 4 mobile devices, right? Really kind of fitting into your stereotypical millennial pattern there. But again, it's all about, how do we leverage all of the knowledge that we've built in these 2 different spaces, and then what are the platforms that really bring those together? So I think that it's some great points and really a lot to look forward to this week. I know that there's really some great sessions out there. Some have already started this morning. If you missed any of the sessions, they're all going to be recorded, right, Kris? So they'll be available,
Right.
I believe, on demand through the fall. So, there'll be a lot of opportunity, even if you missed one of our live sessions where you can interact with us a lot of great ways to interact with all of the different presenters this week. And I think you mentioned again, Kris, what 25 of our great companies here answering questions live as we speak. I know I'll be, presenting and following up with questions. I've got some people on my team that are going to help answer some questions live as well. So, I'm sure it's similar for some of your presentations and all kind of new for us, right? We're learning, we're growing from this, but I really think this is going to be a great week and already turning out to be here early in the week so far. So
it's never a bad week when I get to see my good friend Nick, is not in person, but at least virtually through the screen here, and we get to see all of you. And you have been watching the Kris and Nick show. No, excuse me. You've been watching us present and highlight what we're going to be doing this week. Again, look for Nick and for his sessions. I think it was SYO2 and SYO3.
Yep,
Is that
3
right,
and 4. Close. Yep.
3 and 4.
Yep.
And again, we talk about the edge devices. You'll hear more in Dennis Wiley as well with me presenting on the CL02, which is looking at edge computing specifically, as well as CL03, which again is going to look at a lot of the things we're doing from a hardware basis, serving new technology. And a lot of that's ahead of the launch that we're having pretty shortly. That's going to have our new controller, the 5580, available in redundancy. It's also going to serve as a basis for the process controller, which you'll learn more about in terms of the plant PAX sessions, but hardware driving now a specific solution for process, but without, breaking integrated architecture. Nothing that you can do or can't do on that controller that you could do with the rest. If you do buy that controller, you're not losing any capability as well. So again, I hope that you enjoy the time here. I hope you've enjoyed us talking. Again, at Nick's point, if you miss anything, there's a lot of ways where we're going to record and be out there. Play that ROKLive badge game for great prizes. Check out the partner showcase. Check out all the sessions that we have there. A lot of people have already. Again, the attendance, and in some ways you think of it, we're touching more people than we could have if we were physically together in Boston. Although we could have parked our car, we could have had a beer, and go Sox, even though I'm a Steelers fan, right? But
Yep.
but we'll all get to see you hopefully next year in Boston, and hopefully we all get to see each other sooner than later. We want to wish you the best as you go on today and through the next couple days here at ROKLive, and take care. Nick, thanks again. Any parting?
No, you bet. I look forward to the rest of the event. Hopefully everybody joins it, and I look forward to seeing you hopefully sooner than later in person, Kris. So we'll have to get together soon. But thank you everybody, and have a great week.